space travel from places that do exist, but on other levels that, because of our limitations, prevent us from observing these places that presently exist.
Certainly a comment here. Early in this written, I would suppose you would call it a history in the Encyclopedia Judaica, they talked not only of Adam, but of Adam Kadmon, the primordial man, that before coming to the Garden of Eden, he had to have passed a certain number of worlds. Had he been coming to Earth from an extraterrestrial source, the planet Earth would have been the 6th or the 7th planet or physical body that he eventually arrived at and settled upon. That is also alluded to in that writing. So that book would have, and that knowledge would also have to be passed on with him.
That is correct. That is correct. Not only that, but the Hebrew alphabet. We have up until, let's say, the present era, we're all under the impression that creation started with this universe. But the Zohar makes it very clear. The Zohar, I mean the Book of Splendor, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that the alphabet was created 2,000 years prior to the creation of this world, just the energy intelligences of letters. So there were worlds before this one. They still exist, but not in the same frame of reference as we, for most of us who still operate on a 5 census level.
Well, therefore, yes, it could be interpreted as the number of planets approaching the center of our solar system from vast distances out there.
Yes. It's all coming together.
Certainly. It's very obvious.
That very same kind of counting was done by the ancient Sumerians. We were discussing this about 4 weeks ago, you remember, with Zechariah Sitchin. Those poor fellows were really good science fiction writers or historians, one of the two.
Well, it's very interesting listening to your show, and I'm going to turn this over so someone else can get in their questions. Thank you very much for your reply, Rabbi Berg. Thank you.
All right, and thank you very much for your call. Appreciate that one. They get into all things out there, because my open mind folk. I really enjoy each and every one of them. We'll be back in just a moment with Rabbi.
Hi.
I've read the Bible several times, and I'm convinced that the Creator is not only commanding each of us individually, but is also commanding the universe. And I just wonder, is there anything in the Kabbalah concerning that? You understand what I'm saying?
I'm not quite sure.
Well, I say commanding us because there are things that we do, such as things we do inadvertently, and mistakes we make that are compelled upon us. That is, we don't intend to do any of that. And this leads me to believe that there are forces that are causing us to do this. And I just wonder, was there anything in the Kabbalah that mentions these forces that are controlling us? Are you aware of it?
Yeah. Well, this other forthcoming book that one day hopefully will see the light of day is called Kabbalistic Astrology. There, from a Kabbalist point of view, it's considered to be almost universal that for most of us, we live in a robotic cosmic sphere. Most of the actions, or sometimes almost all of man's activity, is controlled. However, man is provided with the information from a Kabbalistic point of view on how he can also control the cosmos. So while there is astral influence, and while we say the stars compel, they do not impel. And the information again, this is all of this kind of ability of man to control his own destiny, free will, that aspect must exist, and not we are in effect merely robots in a kind of cosmic scheme, and that's kind of difficult to believe that this was God's intent. And
well, of course, is it true that we were created to do the will of God rather than our own will or the will of our egos?
Well, what do you call the will of God? And what I thought I tried to indicate that we're talking about an energy intelligence called the desire to share. That's the will of God. And what we have been sent down on this planet Earth, and since our basic energy intelligence is one of a desire to receive for oneself alone, the creative process is one of transforming our own selfish desire to receive for oneself alone, and to create an affinity and a devekut, as it is referred to in Hebrew, create a link up with the all-embracing unified whole called the Lord, with that energy force called the desire to share. So this is when we're told to do the will of God, when there is no such thing as commanding us to do it. In order to receive, you got to share. That's one of the basic principles of Kabbalah.
I see. Well, I was just thinking about all the negativity that's going on in the world. Do you think the Creator is commanding all of that too?
No, that's a self-made man. That's man, because the Creator himself has no connection with the desire to receive for oneself alone, as I think I fully explained in the book Kabbalah for the Layman.
Was it the Creator that commanded the flood during Noah's time, or was that man?
Man-made. Everything, every holocaust, every disorder in the universe, all of those beautiful bloras in heaven, as the immediate book, Kabbalah for the Layman 2, indicates from a Kabbalistic point of view, there isn't a single action in this entire universe, both terrestrial and celestial, that has not been determined by man's activity.
I see. You mean, in other words, man is the only one that can correct the problem?
That is correct.
It usually makes the problem.
I see. So, in other words, man can cure all these cancers and everything, if he decides to do so.
Why not?
But he doesn't seem to know how. He doesn't even know he created it, does he?
He'll always put the illness on somebody else.
I see. Well, it looks like the problem will continue as long as he doesn't know that he did it. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, whenever there's a problem, we always put it overseas. Like we've got the problem with the bees now. That's the African bees, right? Or the Asian flu. Yeah, we're going to have to start getting home, because this is where the problem really lies, doesn't it? Okay, we have Sue on the line. Hello, Sue.
Hello, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying the show.
Well, thank you.
I want to say one thing, Dr. Berg. I really appreciate the time you're taking to respond. You're reflective and thoughtful in your responses. So often people, when they're on shows, feel they must answer immediately, and you are giving thought to the questions posed, and I think that's really wonderful. I also think there seems to be with the callers this thing of continuing to separate man from God as a person. And until we come to the realization that we are all part of God, each of us, then the negativity will continue. But I think there's a tremendous fear on mankind of taking responsibility for ourselves. And I think many institutionalized religions have perpetrated that for their own purposes, I assume. But we all are a part of God, and therefore each is responsible for whatever is happening on any time at any place. What I wanted to get into with you was about reincarnation. One thing, my son is adopted. He's not 20s. And I have always felt, my husband and I were very involved and studied metaphysics, but we had always felt that he could not come into our lives through my body and had to choose his own way of entry, but that he was very much meant to be a part of our lives, and that was the only way he could do it. He had an experience when he was about 4 years old of remembering an incident in another life. And it was just very brief. He had no recollection of it in later years. He didn't recall it at all. I'm talking a lot, but I wanted to share something with you. My husband died last year, and he died of cancer. It wasn't a long illness. It came quite suddenly. But I was with him in our home, as we had talked about and he wanted to be, when he died. And there was no doubt in my mind when he made the transition out of the body. I was holding him, talking to him, and talking to the other side, asking them to make it easy for him and to be there for him. And I could feel his life forces leaving. But my final words were, and I didn't know where this came from because I don't usually speak in these words, but I said, Father, accept thy son. And he was gone. I mean, his energy left immediately. Since his death, I've had 2 encounters with him in an astral, an out-of-body experience, completely uncontrolled. The first time was very brief, and it was a few months after he had died. And he looked about as he did, pardon me? Hello?
I just coughed. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay. It was just a brief encounter. He looked very much as he did over the year or so before he died. And it was like he was reassuring me. And I was out of my body, and he was on another plane. Now, the other encounter was just a few months ago. It was of greater length, and we carried on a conversation for I don't know how long because there's no time in that space. But I said, I was asking, we talked about many things, but I said, why can't we do this more often? I can't seem to have any control over it. And he responded to me, and he said, this is not easy for me to do. And he said, and I have, with a smile on his face, he said, I have many things to take care of. And I asked him if it was good where he is, and if he was happy. And he said both. And I said, what's it like? And then I said, no, I don't want to ask you that. And he just looked at me and reflected. He looked past me, actually, like he was thinking. And he said, all I can tell you is don't ever harm or kill anyone. Now, my husband has never killed anyone, but not in this life that we had together. But I think it was an awareness that he had that he wanted to share with me. And at that point, he faded away, and then I went into my body and I awakened. But I just want to say that there is life ongoing. It does not end here. There is so much more out there. And if we can all just become aware of that, and that the world will be what we make it and as we want it to be. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Sue, for those thoughts.
All right. Bye-bye.
Sharing that with us. What an experience that must be to go through. Okay, we have Simon on the line. Simon, you there?
Hello.
Yes.
Can I speak to the rabbi?
He's right here.
Rabbi?
Right on.
My father was a rabbi, and his father was a rabbi. He ran away from Turks during the First World War, and he landed in Burma, where I was born. He was a very, very deep student of the Kabbalah. And it's funny, when I was young, people from all over the neighborhood used to bring kids that were raving mad. And he just touches them, and he says a few words quietly in meditation, and he says these words, Sham, Fahad, Dufahad, Lohaya, Fahad. And all of a sudden, they change, they become normal again. I don't understand that. And when I was born, he named me Shimon Bar Yochai. And I tell you who I am in case you want to talk to me. I own the Beverly Hills Liquor Castle in Beverly Hills. And it so happens, even my own brother became a rabbi. So when I was coming to the United States, I begged of him to come with me. He said, no. I know a country is going to be born, and it's going to be called Israel, and my destiny is to go back there, where I came from.
Do you have a question now for Rabbi Berg?
Is it a fact that people can have healing power?